Hello everyone, this is Claudia Leo from Northquad Programming. As you probably know by now, because of COVID-19, our shared spaces are closed. Given that the bulk of what we do is production of events, our operations have been greatly affected. However, we are moving events and content online, for which we have now created virtual space 24/35, and we can leave links to that so you can start finding new content. And I wanted to talk a little about what happened, at least to me, when we were sent home by the university to start working remotely. I very quickly found that I was being a lot more social than I had been under regular circumstances. In fact, I ended up still daily host meetings, much more often with colleagues, and often with colleagues that I would typically not have in-office meetings with, and now I'm finding that I'm having virtual meetings with. And that aspect of it has actually been very enjoyable for me. But I also find that I've been out of concern, of course, contacting, keeping in touch with family members, friends, really all over the world, through video conferencing and different apps and whatnot that are available, that really have made life a lot easier under the circumstances. And so I really started wondering about this concept of social distancing that we keep being told, that we need to put in place. The social part has really increased for me. So I was thinking, this is really no more than just physical distancing, which I think emotionally made the concept a little less scary for me. Because again, I felt that I was connected to people that I wouldn't really see on a regular basis before. And now I was doing, online exercise classes with, and seeing friends on the screen that I hadn't seen in a long time. So as I was thinking about these concepts and how they were creating my new reality, how they had affected my life, I completely by chance, a good friend of mine happened to post an article on Medium, and I will leave a link to the article so you can read it for yourselves. Precisely, very much along the lines of what I was thinking about in terms of social distancing versus physical distancing. And I think it's a good conversation to have. And so I'd like to engage you a little bit to see what your thoughts are. On this, the person who wrote the article, her name is Serene Arena, and she happens to be a graduate too of the University of Michigan with a dual degree from LSNA and also the Penny Stamps School of Art and Design. In her article, she called it "Using Physical Distancing for Emotional Health." It says, "We've been using the wrong words during the coronavirus crisis, and it's making us sicker." And the article starts with a quote from Nina George that says, "Often, it's not we who shape words, but the words that we use that shape us." And I'm not going to read the article, so forgive me, I'll probably be looking down a lot. But the article says, "Language is powerful and semantics are everything. I've long advocated that figurative words have physical consequences, and in the past few days, the American public has started a discussion about one such example of this with the practice of social distancing. There are ramifications to our choices, and words are no exception on that. How we interact, literally and figuratively, depends on how we understand our environment. The same goes for our relationship to COVID-19. What has become apparent in one of those in retrospect that seems obvious is that our choice of language and messaging on how to react has heightened the overall stress we are collectively feeling because of the disease. As social animals, the idea of distancing intrinsically causes sadness and distress, creating visions of what scares us most, being alone. Many studies have shown how our emotional state is tied to our physical and mental health. It is clear, based on public reaction to social distancing, that we must reframe the message to speak to the actual ask and task at hand, that of physically distancing ourselves. While our concept of socializing is very different right now than what we've generally considered it, for many of us, there is still some level of socializing happening. In what is rightfully infuriating to those with mobility and access issues, the general public has overwhelmingly embraced video conferencing. It suddenly got so easy to use, and many of us have discovered or rediscovered the original purpose of our phones. Hello, is this thing on? I'm not suggesting the pound sign is coming back into the vernacular, but I will say that I've used my phone more in the past week than I have in several months. Too many people have seen my work from home outfit, pajamas. Conversations with friends and family is at an all-time high, and even being the introvert that I am, I feel grateful and lucky for that. It should be noted that the virus has outed in full force the true cost of the country's digital divide, amongst many other things. But I share the above as a fact that we are, generally, as society, still socializing. It is simply without a physical component. Admittedly, physicality is key to how and what we consider social, and can be cause of varying levels of pain depending on how extroverted you are. We are reminded in this just how much we rely on literal connectedness. As much as we tout our virtual lives, they don't compare to the real deal. But the difference in what our actions usually mean during COVID-19, the nuance between physical distancing and social distancing, is a substantial one. And our mental model of what it is can be drastically reinterpreted. The intention and meaning of the words social and physical, in use with distance, fill us with distinct imagery and concepts, and it's why their differences must be articulated in our collective understanding, not only for individual health, but for our community's well-being. The psychological understanding of what we are and not doing affects how we grapple with the disease, going way beyond the idea of seeing a glass half empty or full. By phrasing our current endeavors as social distancing rather than physical distancing, we are telling our little socially oriented brains over and over in an act of self-flagellation that we're being denied essential human contact. Which is fair, because that's what the term infers, and completely unfair, because that's not, in the act of distancing, what we're doing. We are causing our psyches undue heartache and increasing our risk of illness by creating a false scenario of alienation. We're not alone in this. So why would we create a message platform that suggests that? This is what makes language so powerful, and why we say it creates our reality. And what is our reality? Right now, it's physically distancing ourselves 6 to 10 feet apart from one another. For many, it is also taking care of ourselves and loved ones, enjoying conversation with friends, spending time outdoors, discovering an old hobby. Yes, I idealize the situation with that, not to minimize the severity some of us feel in distancing, but because of that severity, in order to expose the need to reframe what we're doing, what we're asking of ourselves and others, not as limiting social contact, but as limiting physical contact. There are those we know who were already vulnerable to isolation, and distancing of any kind will hurt them the most. Call them, write them, reach out with that telephone thing that you have. Our emotional state has ramifications on our ability to function at all levels. Ever had a bout of depression? By using phrasing like social distancing, we have been adding disproportionate anxiety to an already anxious situation. In turn, limiting our body's ability to manage that stress and suppressing our immune system. For our health and futures, We must reframe our perspective on action. Physical distancing not only speaks to our true actions, but relieves us of a false construct. We're not in control of many things right now, but language and its use is something that we can always own. Words are tiny tools that change the direction of perception and culture, and they're powerful assets in our possession right now. So that's the end of the article. Is very much in line with the thoughts I was having as my reality changed. And I would love to hear from those of you who follow us on social media, who do events with North Quad programming, people that we typically would engage with on a daily basis at North Quad. Where are you in on this whole thing? What do you think? Social distancing versus physical distancing? And actually in other online conversations, people have suggested to call it just simply social responsibility. It's a concept that it implies a social practice with the spirit of taking care of our communities. So I hope you're all taking care of ourselves, remaining as social as you can or want, while practicing safe physical distancing. And I hope everyone is safe and healthy. And yeah, let us know what you think. We would love to continue being in touch with you and engage you in conversation. Until our next post.